Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is the Dendrobiums. I'm going to get the nobile types, or those that get treated like that, out of the way first. I haven't got any species nobile, the species, on the grounds I class that as difficult, and in my environment it wouldn't bloom and it wouldn't do very well. However, the hybrids have had a lot of that fussiness just bred out of them, and the ones I've got do quite well. This isn't strictly speaking a nobile. This is formidable or formidable if you pronounce it in the French way. It's a primary cross between two species, formosum and infundibulum. I haven't actually got either of those two, and the last one I've never flipping heard of. Nonetheless, it's a strange plant. It has a strange growth pattern. It puts up canes, like most dendrobiums do. They're not strictly speaking deciduous, although they are semi-deciduous. They do eventually lose their leaves, but it takes several years. Some of these canes I've had, this will be their third season and they still haven't dropped their leaves. It pushes up nice big strong canes, and then right on the top of the cane it produces a couple of flowers. And that doesn't sound very good until you actually see the flowers and their size. They are absolutely colossal and they look like cattleyas. Obviously the pop-ups there so you can see. It's growing well. This is a new cane here, so there will be flowers on that in the not too distant future, I hope. And buried down in the middle there's another new cane forcing its way up through, and another new cane there. I look forward to the flowers on this one. They really are stunning, and it's not a bad plant. I haven't come across it anywhere else. This is the only one I've ever come across with that name, so primary cross. This one's Stardust Firebird. It's a typical hybrid nobile, apart from the fact it's bright orange. You don't see too many bright orange nobile hybrids. But it's not a spectacular looking plant, and it is prone to kikis. It chucks them out like they're going out of fashion. When it does flower, the flowers are marvellous. Beautiful patterning on the lip and a real beautiful orange. Not the best looking plant. That one does drop its leaves on an annual basis, so I'm going to end up with lots of sticks and a few bits of green eventually, at which point I'll deal with it. So that's those two. And standing well back from this one, because it's such a flipping great plant, this really is a big plant, but it's a bright green plant. It's a healthy looking plant. I can stand a large, outrageously large plant if it does well, and this one does. This is actually a hybrid between the species nobile and moniliforme, which I have got. It pushes out canes and they grow incredibly fast. It has beautiful flowers on it. It pushes them out, for me, in dribs and drabs. There's probably a good reason for that, which I'll go into later. At the moment it is pushing some buds out. There's a couple there. There's some nubbins up on that cane. That cane round the back's pushing a bud. There's a few buds coming. Flowers are absolutely beautiful. They are stunning, but they are short-lived. A lot of dendrobiums come into that category, short-lived blooms. They last about 10 days, but they are so good it's worth it. If it did a mass display, it would be a showstopper. It's never done that for me, but it does flower over quite a long period of time. If this one had a cool winter rest, I probably would get the mass display, but I'm quite happy to have very, very attractive flowers on and off over a period of 3 or 4 or even 5 months. Massive plant though. It's actually stood in 2 clay pots at the moment because it's so big it won't stand up, and that's what the hook's for. I don't need it to stand up, it hangs, and it does very well as a consequence. Lovely plant. I absolutely adore it. I nearly sold it once because it took up so much room, and then I thought, nah, you're a good plant, you can stay. This nobile is probably the only one I've got that I would class as not doing so well as a plant. It's had an attack. It got a massive slug on it that basically took out that new cane, just took it out completely. Bless. It It's got one distorted flower on it at the moment. It flowered earlier in the spring. A slug got at that as well. When it flowers nicely, I'll actually put the pop-up up because it's a much better picture. It's got a lovely delicate green centre to the lip and little pink tips to the white flowers. It's a typical nobile. It flowers up the length of the cane. You can see it obviously flowered well on that cane. The only other cane it's got at the moment, strictly speaking, isn't a new cane. It's a kiki. And I repotted this recently, took the kiki off, and a slug, it even got at the kiki halfway up the plant. And I've put that in the pot. The roots will get going and it'll be like, it's probably going to be its only new cane this year. This is one of the plants that stood up the back in the winter, and one of the, I think about 5 plants got spider mites on them. First time I've ever had them, hopefully the last. They have come, they have done their damage on the leaves, and they have now gone, and they haven't returned as far as I know. That's not my best plant by far. This one, however, is much more vigorous. As you can see, number of new canes, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 new canes. It pushes them up quite freely. I've been naughty with this one, say what you like, but I like my plants to look reasonable. I have to look at them. This is where I spend a lot of time. Tatty plants don't do so well for me. It's had a funny little turn recently and decided to throw flower spikes out at the base, or flower buds, whatever you want to call them. There's the naughtiness. I took some canes off. This had 9 leafless canes hanging out this side of the plant, making it look tatty and unscruffy. It's got plenty of leaved, strong canes. It will manage without those. Some people are frightened to death to take the old canes off. If and when I get round to repotting it, that section of the plant with the stumpy bits on can just go. It can just come off. It's a strong grower. It will do without them. It can live without them. It's got plenty of good strong leaved canes and plenty of new canes coming up. The new canes are going to get their energy from the new roots and from the fertiliser and water that it's going to get copious amounts of to push them on. So there's no ID, same as that one, no ID, just nobile hybrid. But they have attractive flowers. Right, on my nobiles, winter rests, they don't get one. They didn't get one on the grounds that I can't get the lower temperatures. I can give them the bright light, I can reduce their watering down, which I would do anyway in the winter, but I give them less water than perhaps some of the other genus in the grow room. So they do get a sort of rest, but they don't get the low temperature. I can't do it. This only goes down to 15 degrees in the winter time. I've got far too many plants in here that are true intermediates. I don't want them getting cold. So the nobiles have to put up with it. And so far, not one of them has suffered in any shape or form. As I say, don't try that with the species, you'll probably get no flowers at all. But with the hybrids, they manage okay. They still flower. I still get mass bloomings up the canes. I'll live with that. So the hybrids I've got I will stick with. I don't probably plan on getting any more, but they do okay. Right, next we have the kingianum types. This one's Berry Oda. This one did have a mass flowering and was absolutely stunning, and it had a gorgeous scent. These again are prone to kikis. It's no big deal. I don't think it's a big deal if your dendrobiums produce kikis. What they're effectively saying is have some free plants. That's the way I look at it. Even though they will often remove the ability of a cane to actually produce flowers. When it's got as many canes as this, I'm not really that fussed. Berry Oda gets to stay. It flowered well. This is kingianum, the species, and I did say they were prone to kikis. It's chucking out some kikis, but it's also pushing out some new canes in round the base. This one doesn't get to stay. It doesn't flower. I can see no point in keeping a very, very large, good plant like that when it's not doing well. Somebody else can look after this that has a cool greenhouse, and they'll get a massive display of flowers with the scent. They'll love it. So it just seems silly to take up that amount of space with something that doesn't flower, and it probably never will. And having just said that, it's making me a liar, because would you believe it, it's just pushed out a spike. Nonetheless, this is going in the auction at the end of the month. I should get a reasonable price for that, which will allow me to buy some other orchids that will do well. This one just doesn't do well for me. It's a shame because it's a good plant. Desperately needs repotting. That's got that coconut stuff in amongst there. Yuck. The other kingianum type, this is a no ID hybrid. let's get back a bit, see if I get the whole thing in. It lives on a mount. It does flower very well. The canes it's pushing up this year are outrageously large compared with what it's ever done before. The base of some of these canes, they're enormous. And they're pushing them out at length this year as well. That's a good plant. This one stays, obviously, it flowers well. The flowers look just like kingianum the species. They're the same size, they're the same colours. It can't be kingianum because it lives in the same circumstances as the one I've just shown you that is the genuine article, labelled by somebody who wouldn't get it wrong. I can vouch for that. This was just classed as a kingianum type hybrid. So I'm quite happy to name it that way, and I'm quite happy for it to stay and to flower well, which is what it does. Goodness knows how many spikes these ginormous canes are going to have next year. That's a whopper. I love that one. So that's the kingianum types, Australian base. Strictly speaking, they are a cool winter rest type orchid. That's how they like to be. They like bright light. They like copious amounts of water and feed in their growing season. Can you imagine how much energy a plant has to have within it to grow canes of this sort of magnitude? They drink and gobble up the fertilizer. They need it, and they will grow well if you do that for them. However, come the autumn, or fall as a third of the world call it, you know, they slow down. They've done their business, they've grown their canes, and they start going into a more dormant type period, you know, where they need less water. They're not actively growing, they just need to stay alive. If you've got these types and you start seeing the canes start to desiccate, give them some water. Mine get watered with no feed through the winter. They don't get a massive drop in temperature, and the two I'm keeping, Berry Oda and this one, flower well as a consequence. Unfortunately, the kingianum actual species just doesn't. Right, this little group, I've put these together because they all need similar care, whether they look alike or not. This one's been on film quite often. This is moniliforme, and it's the variegated form with the lovely edges to the leaves. It's currently doing its thing with the buds all over the canes. It'll be in flower in the not too distant future on canes that I didn't expect to flower this year. It's a good plant. These are new canes up the back here. These are new canes that grew from this spring. They've already reached that size, and there's a few more coming up. I ought to repot it really, but it's doing okay, and I'll think about that once the flowers have gone. Coming on well. I like that plant. It lives up here. Right, reason it lives up there, let's get on to a bit of care. It lives up there because it likes an amount of light, but it doesn't necessarily like really, really bright light, like what some would get up in the roof, shall we say. So this is down a bit from the roof. That reduces the temperature a little bit. It gets it closer to the two circulating fans, so it gets a good airflow, which keeps it a little bit cooler as well. It's happy with that growth. And coming back onto this table, as I said, they all get similar care for a very good reason. This lovely Virgin Angel is a bit of an anomaly. I'm not sure whether it's a nobile type or not. So at the moment I've moved it out of the roof. And the reason I've moved it out of the roof is these leaves are a very pale colour, an indication of too much light. So I've brought it down. And it does flower like a nobile, however. As you can see, it's currently pushing some buds up on that cane. I wasn't actually expecting that. What it hasn't done yet this year is produced any new canes. That bit down the bottom doesn't seem to be doing much at all. It's not the best looking plant, but you wait till you see those flowers. They are something else. And then these three are my Dendrobium phalaenopsis types. One of them is an unnamed hybrid. These don't do as well as they ought to, and I'm working on the reasons why. And I think the reasons why are that these are warm growing. They don't like too much light. They're a mid-light environment, and like the moniliforme and some of the other types, they are constant growers. They don't go dormant in the winter. They don't like to suddenly get cold. In fact, these phalaenopsis types don't like to get cold at all. They need more like phalaenopsis treatment, constant growing, always got some moisture, always got a bit of feed, and a medium sort of light level, more light than you give a phalaenopsis anyway, but you know, they are dendrobiums after all. There's very few dendrobiums grow in the dark. They do like their light, but not so much of it. This is just an unnamed hybrid. It is pushing up a new cane, not dead yet, but it's not in the best of condition, and I think hopefully it's going to pull up a bit better this year. This one is Thai Angel. It has wonderful flowers on it. It does have the birth of a new cane down the base. That's just very recently sort of come. Basically, it's not much of a plant. You know, that one lost its leaves last year. This one will lose its leaves probably towards the end of this season, but in the meantime, it's decided to bud. Yay! So a couple of buds on that one. To come soon, as they do push on once they get going. And then this other sad little object, this is Polar Star. This lost one of its new canes, but flipping mealybugs lurking around. One squashed mealybug. It's put up this new cane. It's got plenty of the season left to grow, even though it's not full size yet. And it's just decided it's going to put up another new cane down at the base there, along with a new root. That'll be nice. That's Polar Star. Again, it's a lovely flower. And lurking up the back here, as I said, it's the ones that get similar treatment. That's why they're on this little section together. This is Victoria reginea. I can never say that flipping word. This was Kiki stuck in a pot. That's all it ever was. I have not expected anything from this plant, and I don't expect anything from this plant for a while. This is a typical deciduous cane dendrobium. The fact that I haven't got, well, I've got one now that lost its leaves. That was probably, because bearing in mind that is in fact a Kiki there off of that cane. That was probably an original cane. So somebody who told me it was five Kikis in a pot, well, near enough. Anyway, it's pushed up one new cane. A tiny little bit of damage on that leaf, but I got the blighter who did that. And there's another new cane just pushing out near the base. Cycle is, you know, grow your nice cane, grow it as big and strong as possible. The following year, it will drop its leaves, and either during that year or the year following that, hopefully you'll get some flowers. And I don't care who you are and what camera you've got, there is no substitute for seeing these blooms in the flesh. The colour is stunning. You have to be there. I've seen many people with videos, and I've seen stills, and I've seen professional pictures. They're still not the same as actually being there. It is one of the most wonderful dendrobium flowers. So that's that little set. No winter rest. So moniliforme that I moved out of the way, the Victoria thing, the phalaenopsis types, and this one as well, because I don't really believe that is a nobile type in its true form. It may be crossed with something else. They get the same treatment. No rest. Don't get them cold. Don't do that thing with these. They don't like it. You get a Dendrobium phalaenopsis cold, you're probably going to lose the leaves. You might lose the plant. Nice steady warmth, comfortable warmth, phalaenopsis type, or a bit less, get away with a bit less, and don't let them get dry. They're constant growers, they don't have a rest. Okay, that's that little group.